What if CHIEN PAO was in Gen 1 OU? Does anyone remember when we can use this guy at the beginning of Generation 9? Holy crap, have so much changed. But it's, not gonna lie, stuff I could not care less about. I gave up on Gen 9 a long time ago. But that doesn't mean I can't take Gen 9 Pokemon and theorize how they do in Gen 1. And CHIEN PAO is definitely a very interesting one to go over. Spoiler alert, I did Weavile a long time ago, and despite him having garbage special attack, he still ended up being pretty good. There was stuff with the whole frail problem, but being an Ice Dark type is stupidly good in Gen 1, and being fast and with Sword Stance, Weavile had things it can do. CHIEN PAO is just bigger, better Weavile. It's ridiculous. Like, even if we just ignore like the ability, because there's no abilities in Gen 1. 135 speed? Was that really necessary? This guy already has an ability that passively lowers defense. Why does it need to be faster than freaking Aerodactyl of all things? And obviously, that translates very well in the Gen 1. Faster than Jolteon is definitely an achievement. Faster than Mewtwo is insane. And then having a better crit rate than both of them as well? Are you kidding me? And along with that, he has 120 attack, which just works really well for Hyper Beam and Sword Stance. So maybe since this guy, CHIEN PAO, his whole thing is hitting physically, has an ability that lowers defenses. So I guess the trade-off is he has full special attack. Nope! 90! That is barely lower than Jinx. So you have Stab Wizard that's basically hitting us hard. Oh, and what do you know? They gave a Recover! Of course they gave Recover. Because a Pokemon that is this fast that unironically can work as a mix attacker needs a recovery as well. Just, what were they thinking? Gen 9 is so infamous from like having so many broken Pokemon with like nothing interesting. Okay, that's not true. They're so broken to the point where it's kinda entertaining, but what's the game design here? You have a very strong physical attacker, but it can still attack specially. It's super fast, but it still has a lot of recovery. So like, and CHIEN PAO isn't even the biggest offender. There are so many things that are worse. But this is definitely just a good example of that. Sorry for that tangent there. I'm just, believe it or not, the person that does a lot of videos in Gen 1 and likes to go over other videos for older gens really doesn't like what they're doing with the modern games. Honestly, I think we need to start calling ourselves Gen 1ers again. But I think we need to change Gen 1er from being only liking the first generation of Pokemon to wanting Game Freak to go back to how the older generations were. 1 through 5, basically. That's a story for another day. If you couldn't tell already, its move pool and its stats and typing are already fantastic. Unfortunately though, there's nothing really better to use other than Hyper Beam, because a lot of the moves that it has are older gens, or there's stuff like Ice Spinner, which would be special even if we gave it that. Same with Psychic Fangs. And obviously, CHIEN PAO is already so good, I'm not giving the Treasure of Ruins their signature move. This guy does not need Super Fang, along with everything else he has. But other than that, there's not much. Obviously, there's Rest and Substitute, but outside of, I think, Takedown, there's just nothing here, really. Or except for one. I forget where it is, but I believe, yeah, Haze. CHIEN PAO does get Haze, which is the only other move you might use, which you would definitely get rid of Sword Stance for. But Haze is really interesting, because Golbat already has a niche in Gen 1 Ubers, just where it can just Haze Amnesia Mewtwo, get rid of its stats. It's not very good, especially when you're using a Poison type against the strongest Psychic type that ever existed in the history of the franchise's history. So what say instead of Golbat, you have a Pokemon that is Dark type, so it's immune to Mewtwo Psychic. It has the Ice type, so it's resistant to Ice Beam, but it even immune to Freeze. And on top of that, it's even faster than Mewtwo. Yeah, this is just a fantastic counter than Mewtwo, really. Mewtwo can still win 1v1 with Thunderbolt, but even then, it's going to be taking a lot of effort, and you're probably going to need a Lucky Paralysis. Because CHIEN PAO can recover off any damage, it can go for Blizzards, which Mewtwo fears a freeze, and just crits from that or Hyper Beam are dangerous. So I'm pretty sure at the beginning of this, I said what if CHIEN PAO was Gen 1 OU, but now that I'm really looking at it, this might need to be a Gen 1 Ubers video instead. It probably should be. For all intents and purposes, assume this is just a Ubers video, even though because of the intro I probably should just call this an OU video anyways, or heaven forbid, someone might comment saying, actually, this is a Gen 1 Ubers video, but you called it Gen 1 OU, and we can't have that. So instead, the only logical conclusion, other than redoing the video, is getting onto the replays, shall we? Starting off with the boy himself, Tauros. Unfortunately, unlike Jinx, that extra 5 base power and special attack kinda does make a big difference here. Which means Blizzard is a 3-hit KO, not a 2-hit KO. But you know what? With all the other things this guy has, I think that's pretty fair. So, luckily though, I'd still say Tauros has a lot to fear here. Things can go very unlucky, sure, for CHIEN PAO. But you do have Recover, but with Body Slam, it is kind of scary, especially since Body Slam's a 3-hit KO. Same with crits. Luckily though, or not luckily, because Fire Blast will still hit really hard. But I was about to say, even if it hits with Fire Blast at the very least, you don't care as much about burns. Because Hyper Beam's only a move you're using, like, not too much anyways. And you don't care about the burn because of the crit rate. And Sword Stance, to be honest, CHIEN PAO almost feels like you'd rather use defensively of all things. Because one thing it does legitimately suffer from is the fact that it has low power points on its only real attacking moves, Blizzard and Hyper Beam. Which means there's a lot of things that are easily capable of just stalling it out. At the same time, Sword Stance has a lot of power points, and Recover itself is really good for stalling. So I would say Tauros has like some things to fear. And Snorlax, it's weird. Despite Snorlax being tankier and hitting about as hard, it almost feels like CHIEN PAO has a much better matchup against it. But to be fair, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's a lot of different Snorlax sets, and Snorlax I feel like a lot of times it can be too passive with like Rest. Granted, if it keeps going full out with attacking, that could be pretty bad. But at the same time, CHIEN PAO can just like Tauros like a crit 2-shots, and puts it pretty close to being killed. Not to mention, for some sets, using stuff like, let's say, Ice Beam, CHIEN PAO can very much tank that. Speaking of which, Amnesia Wax. I think this is the main reason why I consider Snorlax to be a good matchup. Because Amnesia Wax gets absolutely freaking destroyed by CHIEN PAO. It is not even funny. That crit rate alone is just so dangerous that setting up Amnesia is pretty bad. But along with that, there are some Amnesia Wax sets that only have Ice Beam. Surprise, surprise, CHIEN PAO doesn't care about those. And even if Snorlax goes for Rest, there's still that chance of getting frozen once it wakes up, or CHIEN PAO setting up Sword Stances and absolutely demolishing with Hyper Beam. So I think there's just not much Snorlax can do. Good golly, that is not the same thing for Chansey. So remember how I told you that CHIEN PAO only has 8 power points? Yeah, if Chansey has Reflect, This is easily the most annoying match ever for both parties involved. In fact, we're going to put this on fast because we're going to be here a while. Because with Reflect, even with max attack, PAO can never get a guaranteed KO. And when you're only relying on Hyper Beam, that's already a huge problem. Because it means putting Chansey in the damage range is really hard. And maybe it wouldn't be impossible. But since Chansey can paralyze you, it's always faster. Which means it can always soft-boiled before you can kill it off with Hyper Beam. But at the same time, with Recover, you can very much stall out Chansey's Seismic Tosses. And ironically, because of Paralysis, PAO can survive a few different Seismic Tosses. So even if it gets unlucky, it's not gonna just die. But what that also means is that PAO can stall out soft-boiled Seismic Tosses, pretty much anything Chansey has to offer. As you can imagine, that's kind of huge. And it definitely means that both parties involved are extremely annoyed, and would probably rather avoid each other. But keep in mind, this is actually just a best case scenario for Chansey, assuming you already got the Reflect off. Critical Hyper Beam is very dangerous, but I'm pretty sure Chansey barely survives it. But still, that just means if Chansey has any chip damage whatsoever, it's kinda screwed. And that includes if it already has Reflect up, because Hyper Beam just hits past Reflect. Oh, by the way, in case you're curious, 2 Sword Stances put PAO's attack at 968, I believe. So I'm pretty sure going for another one is... I mean, technically, you're not wasting your time, but I don't think it's really worth it. If you just look at the power points right now, Chansey is already pretty low. I'm not sure why it says -7 though. Same thing with Recover. I think Showdown's been kind of bugged. As you can see, both of them are really low on power points. But I'm pretty sure Chansey is out of them? Because if that's -8, I'm assuming that means they use 16 of them. Yeah, I don't know what's going on right now. All I know is that PAO is technically winning. But when you have that few attacking moves left, are you really a winner? Like, I guess Chansey's super good defensively, but because of you being an Ice Dark type, so is PAO. I really don't know how much else to say. Other than that, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, for some reason, maybe consider liking the video and subscribing. I'm having a great time making these videos, and I'm still super proud of myself for actually getting to 1,000. Even though it hasn't been a year yet. I started making these what if videos May 19th, 2023. And we managed to get to 1,000 before that, which is insane. You guys are really cool. So thank you for the support. Now on to a replay where Chansey does not reflect. And even here, since PAO can't kill with the crit, and I'm pretty sure even one Sword Stance isn't actually enough. So now that I think about it, I guess counter Chansey could be really dangerous here. Something to keep note of. But even with Paralysis, if you get to Recover, you can always take on Chansey pretty easily. But even with a Sword Stance, Chansey barely survives. But I guess even if it did go for counter, it's at 5 HP still. So, as you can imagine, really easy to revenge kill. So what would you guys call this? Would you call this a good matchup for PAO, or could go either way? I am very mixed on both of them. But I feel like, even if PAO loses all of its resources, it's still the one that's ultimately going to win at the end of the day. So I feel like PAO versus Chansey, it should be considered a good matchup for PAO. However, it would be by far the worst good matchup I have ever covered in the series. This is not that case though. I don't think I need to tell you that Zam does nothing here. Even for a theoretical getting Paralysis swept with Seismic Toss, PAO has Recover. So, absolutely nothing is being done here, if you're the Alakazam. And then Cloyster is really interesting, because on paper, Cloyster having a lot of defense is really annoying, especially when CHIEN PAO only has Hyper Beam. And I'm pretty sure even max attack, you don't have a guaranteed KO. Which sounds really annoying. But because of Recover, CHIEN PAO can always stall out the Cloyster. Because Clamp only has 16 power points. And even with a crit on 5, which is extremely unlikely, I'm pretty sure CHIEN PAO can survive that. So, Cloyster doesn't really accomplish much here. It can keep going for Clamps, but CHIEN PAO can keep going for Recover until it inevitably misses. And if it misses, even if it's squad resisted, going for something like Blizzard isn't actually that bad, because even if it's not doing that much damage, it's still putting you in that damage range to kill with Hyper Beam. And once Cloyster lost at least 80% of its health, I'm pretty sure the Hyper Beam KO is in fact guaranteed. So it's funny, but it's... I guess even though I don't like how the distribution for CHIEN PAO actually went, I will admit, for situations like this, it does make for a much more interesting matchup. But I would still rather if Gen 9 Pokemon had some weaknesses. But think about, like, let's say, Gen 3 Salamence. Gen 3 Salamence had a lot of really good stats, really great stat distribution. It was fast and it was a mixed attacker, but it also didn't get the coverage that it wanted. It would prefer, like, reliable Dragon and Flying Physical Stab, but it only has the special Dragon Claw and the Physical Hidden Power Flying. Both are good, but Salamence definitely can't do everything at once, which I really appreciate. Which is the exact opposite of CHIEN PAO here. Okay, I'm wrong, 77, but still, that's still pretty close. So I don't know, I'm sorry for so much, like, venting about Gen 9. But, like, to be fair, with a long replay like this, what else am I really going to talk about? Because I think we already know at this point, CHIEN PAO is going to win. It's just a matter of when. And I definitely think we're getting pretty close. Because I think with just 2 Blizzards, not including a crit, I think this is enough. Yeah, that was, barely. So yeah, we'll go over the Jinx replay in a little bit. But I'm just gonna give you a spoiler right now, in case you couldn't tell already. CHIEN PAO is now the new best Ice-type Pokemon. And I know you're probably expecting the meme of me saying it's the new best Sword Stance user. But I'm gonna say probably not. It's probably a mainstay in OU before it gets banned. Just because it can just do really good against setup Pokemon or Pokemon like Chansey. But it has a lot of issues as an actual Sword Stance user. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you, even just regular OU, would rather go for Haze. That way you could just annoy Slowbro to death. So I'd still say, while other Pokemon are not better than CHIEN PAO, I'd still put my money on either Kinglor or Sandslash as the best Sword Stance user. And by the way, for whatever reason, CHIEN PAO can't learn Ice Beam. Which I think is crazy. And if you don't believe me, like, let's go to this here. Ice. I don't know why I can't type. Yeah, Ice Beam is illegal. I don't get it. At all. Which one are we on? This one, yeah. This is Executor. I didn't bother showing what it would do without a crit, because for all intents and purposes, it does not matter. Executor only has Double Edge to hit CHIEN PAO with, and being a really good defensive Pokemon, it can very easily pivot out, and has Recover, so once it does wake up, it can heal off the damage. And I think we can all assume, like, Blizzard probably does, like, about, like 3/4 anyways. If not, worst case scenario, it's just a 2-hit KO. But considering even a low in Sandslash, a Pokemon with only base 25 special attack can 2-shot Executor with Blizzard of all things, I don't have high hopes Executor can tank CHIEN PAO. Now, Gengar is interesting. Or just in general, if you're new here, here's a bit of a fun fact. Literally every single time I did a video with a Dark type, it actually struggled to beat the Ghost type Gengar. A lot of that has to do with the fact that Dark in Gen 1 Unlike Steel, does not hit things super effectively, so against Ghost types and Psychic, it only hits neutrally. And 2, unlike at other gens, Gengar actually has some special that helps it tank things in this gen. So the Chien-Pao and the Gengar matchup could go either way, with Chien-Pao being faster and having a better crit rate and freeze like you saw there. It definitely has a better match than, let's say, when I did Guardian Moltres or Moltres, but it's annoying to say the least, especially since Chien-Pao has such low power points on Blizzard. Gengar is better off avoiding. And then Jolteon, it gets ironic. Even though you're faster, I think you're kind of scared of Jolteon because it can paralyze you. But like I said, with Recover, paralysis isn't even the most annoying thing in the first place. But Jolteon's crit rate is still pretty scary. So I would say this match could go either way. At least in my opinion. Now Jinx. Hyper Beam is just an Oko with a crit. And even if it wasn't, what's Jinx gonna do if Chien-Pao gets put to sleep? Waste its 8 power points on Blizzard for a resisted hit? Doesn't sound very good. Now, Rhydon can technically survive. But does anyone think it matters? Not to mention that's probably a damage range. So Chien-Pao can probably just Oko, just like with Lapras. Even if it isn't always guaranteed, if you're the Rhydon player, you better pretend like it is. Because you have so much to lose. And Slowbro. This deck could go either way, but I kind of messed up. Because for this replay, I forgot that Haze nullifies both of you. So that's a bit of an oopsie. But I don't think it changes too much. Because it's what you'd expect. Paralysis is annoying. But whichever one sets up fully first can just Oko the other. So that just depends who ends up winning. Sometimes it's Chien-Pao, sometimes it's Slowbro. Could go either way. We are almost done. In Rogue we do have Mew and Mewtwo to go for as well. Starmie cannot hit with Blizzard, can't hit with Psychic, and Surface Uncommon. So for the most part, you're only using Thunderbolt, assuming you have it in the first place. But unfortunately, even with lucky paralysis and crits, Chien-Pao still has Recover. So as long as the Chien-Pao player is playing conservatively, it's never going to be in range for Starmie to kill. Hyper Beam, on the other hand, definitely can. This is probably a big reason why you might want to still use Hyper Beam or OU, even though it's not the best thing in the world. Because for some Pokemon like Starmie and Chansey, it just helps you kill so much easier. And then Zapdos can paralyze you, but unfortunately for the Zapdos, Blizzard is a 2-hit KO, and you can always heal off any damage you take, even though Thunderbolt is a 3-hit KO. So Chien-Pao has it pretty good here, I would say. You might even argue it's a great matchup because of just how good Chien-Pao's crit rate is. The Zapdos player probably doesn't risk it at all. At least I would assume not. Next up is Mew. And while hazing Sword Stance is very funny, unfortunately Mew is incredibly tanky. So the only way you're really winning is with a freeze. This is probably a moment where you really wish you had Ice Beam. And by the way, I didn't talk about it, but I do think it's super weird it doesn't get Ice Beam in the first place. Why not exactly? It already gets Blizzard. There's not even like they didn't give it special ice moves. I don't get it at all, but I do think if it did have Ice Beam, it would unironically run that and Articuno, but not for the same reason as Articuno. I think for Chien-Pao, it would run both, solely so that it can just fish for freezes. And obviously with Recover, it would be really good at doing that. So potentially for Ubers, you can have Blizzard, Ice Beam, Recover, Haze. Sounds really annoying, but at the same time, I can't help but find it really funny. But yeah, Mew. It's tanky enough to deal with Chien-Pao. It has recovery of its own. So if Mew doesn't get frozen, Chien-Pao can annoy it, but that's about it. You're better off saving your Chien-Pao for Mewtwo instead. Speaking of which, last but not least, we got the king himself, Mewtwo. And with it being faster, that's already pretty good. But the most common Mewtwo sets usually run Ice Beam over Thunderbolt anyways. So if we're just going with the stereotypical Mewtwo, the standard set, Chien-Pao literally solos. Just Okos on its own. And that's already amazing. But obviously Mewtwo is perfectly capable of specking. So Thunderbolt already is pretty good. But keep in mind Mewtwo has Fire Blast. And there is no doubt in my mind that Fire Blast probably becomes the main move Mewtwo uses from now on. Because Fire Blast, let's be real, it's already super good against Executor, especially with an Amnesia up. And also being good against Chien-Pao is really good. And even against like the normal types, not even that bad. Because Mewtwo already kind of fears a Snorlax when it's paralyzed. So having something like Fire Blast to completely burn it is pretty good. Especially since Amnesia Wax is just not really a thing in Ubers. But even without it, Mewtwo can get lucky with Thunderbolt and can probably win, since Hyper Beam and Blizzard are not really going to kill Mewtwo in the first place. But still, stopping Mewtwo dead in its tracks and preventing it from using a Amnesia Sweep, that's pretty good. Really good, actually. But anyways, here's the tier list. It's been a while since I've done something where the Pokemon does not have any bad matchups whatsoever. Mewtwo probably should be put in could go either way. And after Mewtwo gets spec'd, you can probably put in bad matchups since it will almost always have Thunderbolt. And I think I'll switch these two as well. I think this just seems to make more sense to me. But this is really good. This is really good. Maybe, like, as you can tell, I'm very undecisive with this tier list. Even this can potentially be a bad matchup if you really wanted to. But overall, though, Chien-Pao is just really, really good. And to be honest, I kind of prefer when I'm really indecisive on a definitive tier list. Because when I do that, I feel like it just hopefully will encourage you guys to comment more. And I love it when you guys comment. The other day, I did make a Sceptile for Gen 3 OU. There was a lot of things I was just unsure of because I'm just not as knowledgeable in Gen 3 as I am with Gen 1, despite Gen 3 being my second favorite metagame. You guys have very long and very detailed comments, which I really appreciated. So please comment in this video and all other videos. It means a lot to me. But what do you think? Do you think Chien-Pao would be too much for Gen 1 OU? Do you think it'd be only used in Ubers? And if it wasn't Ubers, do you think it could surpass, I believe it's Snorlax, as the third most used Pokemon in the metagame? I think it very obviously would, but I don't hear what you guys have to say. And how much more broken would it be with the signature? With this signature basically acting as Super Fang, would you even use it over stuff like Haze or Swords Dance? Let me know in the comments below. But until next time, this is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.